Hey there, how's everybody doing? Thanks for tuning in to the T.O.P.P podcast on this Monday, January 21st, 2019. What's going on? I'm enjoying life. I've been interviewing some really cool people doing these shows, and I know you'll love it, as I do, for sure. The first thing I wanted to talk about was a book I wrote. I touched on it last episode, and I really believe in this product because it's something that would help anybody who deals with new people on a film set. It will build confidence in people that are new, but the ALMs and background wranglers and PAs that deal with new people all the time would totally appreciate this book. A total asset. If you have just a copy in your back pocket and someone asks you a question that you've heard 1,000 times before by new people, just give them the book. They can read it and say, I don't know, 30 minutes for me, and I'm not a smart guy. Can you imagine if a smart guy had to read it in 10 minutes? Well, I don't know how quick he could read it, but I know that it's easy to read because I wrote it. And it will totally alleviate a lot of the silly questions and common sense things that people in film get fed up with answering all the time. I would always answer the same questions of these people and got to a point where I thought if I had some sort of guide or some sort of book to give them and they could breeze through, then they wouldn't bother me with all these little things. Now, I sound like an impatient guy. Don't bother me or whatever. I'm important. It's not about that. It's that I have to pay attention to my job, but also make sure that you're okay and taken care of. And if you knew what were in the pages of this book, you would have, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months worth of knowledge right away. So it's worth getting for sure. You can get it on Amazon or Indigo, Kobo, a bunch of different online platforms, and it will totally help you out if you deal with new people on film. The second thing I really wanted to talk about was my wife has been loving the show. She's been listening to the show for a bit, and she said, well, you're going to be a host of this show, and you should be aware of what's going on in the news and current events and be able to talk about these different things. Now, I agreed, I guess, for a little bit. I was like, okay, I understand what you're saying, and I'll go check it out. So I did. I didn't totally not watch the news before, but I avoided watching it because it was all filled with rape and killing and people escaping from prison and whatever, and then it's broken up by some puppy doing something cute video, just to raise the spirits for a second, but then boom, right back to the horrible destitute and destruction of the world by stupid people in charge. It's just insane. So unless it directly affects me and I'm going to be hurt by it, then I don't really want to hear it otherwise. If it's, Donald Trump likes to eat this or doesn't, or says this or says that, or he's sexist and racist or whatever, I don't want to hear it because, first of all, I'm Canadian, and that's American media news. So, unless he's dropping the nuclear bomb or something, I don't really need to hear about it or talk about it with my friends. It's strange to me. So I'm not going to keep up with all of the current events that happen of the day, unless it's major and you might hear about it, like 9/11 or some major event. Then okay, I might say something about it, but other than that, forget about it. I'm just going to concentrate on film and deal with film kind of stuff. Today I have a real treat for you. I sit down and interview a guy named Kevin Schultz. He is the on-set key playback for a DC Legends show called Legends of Tomorrow. That's the name of it, Legends of Tomorrow. And he's worked on Flash, and I met him actually working on Arrow. So he's been in the WB comic book world for a while. He created a production company back in high school, actually, called Cremo Films. And it is www.cremofilms.com to see more of his stuff. He's got a fan film on there that he directed and produced called Batgirl Destiny Calls. It's really cool. And if you look up his stuff on IMDb, there's a mega Kevin Schultz on IMDb, by the way. So he is the 6th name down. And it took a while to find him, but I did and found what he does. So he's a really cool guy and has a lot of really awesome insights of stuff. And I'm sure you will like this interview like I did. So here we go. Give it up for Kevin Schultz.
You are listening to the Tons of Productions podcast.
We're rolling. Hey, Kev, how you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm fantastic. It's good to see you.
It's good to be here.
Thank you so much for coming down and doing this. I'm trying to get all the people that I'm starting with all the people that I know that I've worked with that are interesting, dynamic people who actually do independent on top of working in the professional industry, because how much work in the professional industry kills people.
Yeah, the hours are only one factor to that, really.
Yeah, exactly. Like when we met, we were PAing, we were doing massive hours.
Oh my God. Arrow Fridays is rooftops in the rain every Friday night. That was my entire early 20s of Fridays.
Yeah, it was I did 2 seasons, and it was pretty deadly. And now you're on DC Legends.
Yes, I am.
And,
DC Legends.
And also Flash you did. So it's the Warner Brothers world that you're working in, and for years on I met you on Arrow, then you did Flash, and now you're on DC Legends, and you just got a promotion.
Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny because from the time you met me on Arrow, each job I've had has progressively gotten more higher in the food chain, because you and I started working, we were PAs, right?
Right.
Then I moved over to Flash, and I was playback assistant, so I was like assistant to the playback operator, and then now on Legends I'm playback operator, which is just such a fun job, especially when you're on a time ship. It's like,
yeah. I
grew up as a massive Trekkie and a huge Star Trek fan.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring up. You're like a comic book person, Trekkie. You're like right into the cosplay.
No, I'm not much
or
of a
you
cosplayer.
don't do cosplay.
I don't do cosplay. I appreciate cosplay.
Okay, but you go to Comic-Con and stuff, or
I wish I'd gone to Comic-Con. I've gone to Fan Expo every year.
Oh, okay.
Every year.
Okay.
I won't be going this year, but I've gone every year.
But every show you're doing now and moving up in is a comic book based.
Oh man,
show.
You know, if you were to tell 15-year-old me that I'd spend my 20s hanging out with superheroes on a film set, I'd punch you in the face. Because you're lying.
Yeah. Oh wow.
It's pretty crazy though. It's been the last 5 years of my life, and currently the beautiful thing about working on a show like Legends, if anybody has ever seen it, is you're pretty much working on a B movie for every episode.
Really?
They just threw any sort of concept of serious, dark. They threw it out the window like in season 2.
Okay.
And the result being is, episodes that have already aired that I could talk about. Like we had an episode air a few episodes ago where by the end of the episode, spoiler alert for anybody watching us, in the episode Tender is the Nate, we shot a scene where by the end of the episode, you have a mentor fighting Ernest Hemingway in 1930s Paris that has to be lulled to sleep by the song Sweet Baby James by James Taylor, played by Biff from Back to the Future, Tom Wilson.
That is weird.
And that was the climax of the episode.
Wow. Do you think a lot of the writers go in between all the different shows? Or it's just DC Legends
My
writers?
understanding is that the writers stay on the shows that, like, they only do one show. That's my understanding.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because before this, I did Supernatural. So it's just WB. But in Vancouver, that seems to be the prominent production company.
It must employ like 50% of our industry.
I think so.
I think Greg Berlanti himself employs at least 40%.
Wow, that's massive.
Well, think about it. He is the EP for. He's the creator of Sabrina, Riverdale, all the DC shows. He did You. He did. There's more that I'm trying to think of, but
he's probably rich as a mother too. Oh my god, the creator of these shows? That's insanity.
Well, that's the thing. Like, it's a guy who was able to go in and say, "Hey, we're gonna make a dark, gritty." Superhero series out of the Green Arrow, and if anybody has ever actually read a comic book of the Green Arrow, those are 2 words that don't apply to his character at all. But it's like they in the first season they had the Green Arrow, and they would just spray paint his eyes green because they thought it was too comic booky to have a bandana across the eyes, a mask. Okay. And then now fast forward 6 years, and again I'm working on a spin-off that involves time traveling superheroes fighting mythical creatures. Like, that's the progression of which this has gone.
Oh, that is wild. That's so wild. And it changed like in Vancouver, because before, when I first started as a PA, it was all space shows. It was everything before this comic book craze, and before, like, actually the first movie I did background was The Watchmen.
Oh, nice.
That was the very first thing I did in film, and it was the really the beginning of all of this comic book shows and everything that just cropped up.
Yeah.
But back in the day, I did Stargate when I started, and it was all, at the time, space shows, it seemed. And they were trying to find their way, and now it's just exploded with this comic book craze.
I love it. People are getting really, I think, tired out on the superhero craze for a lot of them, like calling it a fad or saying, go the way of the Westerns. Personally, though, I grew up in an era where you waited 2-3 years before a comic book movie, and it usually sucked.
Right.
So this is great. I never thought I'd have a point in my life where I saw one, let alone 2 Ant-Man movies.
No, it's insanity how much there is. It's like there's so many superhero movies now.
Yeah.
I'm like, I never saw that. I forgot about that.
Well,
like,
it's funny because I remember back in 2008, I was in high school. I graduated high school in 2009. I remember in 2008, it was like the greatest thing in the world to go to the movie theater. And in the same week, we had, or 2 weeks apart, we had Iron Man and we had The Dark Knight come out.
Oh yeah,
that was a fantastic summer.
Yeah.
But that was completely unheard of even at that era because before that we had Spider-Man 3, which if you've ever seen Spider-Man 3. You wouldn't have wanted to.
Yeah.
But that's where the stance was, and that's where it all was. And of course, Iron Man kicked off the whole MCU. But nowadays, I just never thought I'd see a point in my life where I hear people say, "No, oh God, that's enough, Batman." Oh my God. Never thought I'd actually hear that in my life. But
I know. Or for me, it was Spider-Man. They reboot it. Like every time, I'm like, okay. I didn't watch even the last Spider-Man trilogy or whatever. Was it trilogy?
They couldn't make it all the way to trilogy. They made 2 movies.
Oh, 2 movies.
The new one though, Spider-Man: Homecoming, I thought was good. And the one that's actually out right now, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, the animated one they have out right now.
Oh, I saw the ads for that.
It is one of the best comic book movies I've ever seen.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I've seen it twice in theaters. I will be buying it as well.
Holy moly, that's...
Yeah, it was beautiful animation. Like, fuck, they had so many different... Am I allowed to swear on this?
Oh, of course.
Oh, okay.
It's a podcast. There's no restrictions.
The CRTC doesn't own this shit. Yeah, it was like 6 different types of animation. They brought in so many different types of Spider-Man to the whole thing. Like, it was a lot of people don't realize about Spider-Man. I've been a Spider-Man fan my entire life.
Right.
And avid reader of it. And the one thing that people don't seem to realize is that Peter Parker has never been the only Spider-Man. It has never only been just Peter Parker. In fact, the main character of this movie is actually not Peter Parker. It's Miles Morales. It was a version of Spider-Man that came out in around 2007.
Wow.
And from an alternate universe. And the big difference about this one is that he was African American.
Okay.
He's inner city African American who became Spider-Man. And he's Miles Morales. So he's actually the main character of this movie. And it's all these other Spider-Man versions coming in from other dimensions trying to get back to their own dimensions. So you got, and it's all in the trailer too, by the way. Like you got one that's a complete anime character named Penny Parker. Okay. Spider-Man Noir, voiced by Nicolas Cage. You got Spider-Ham, which is like a Looney Tunes-esque pig version of Spider-Man, voiced by John Mulaney. But these are all of these are actual comic lines that have existed.
Really?
Yes.
See, I'm not that knowledgeable about the Spider-Man world. Like, oh my God, hey, that's awesome. Well, that's great that they're perfecting it, I guess, after time.
After a while, the same format doesn't always work, right? You can't just always have end of the world stakes. Somebody comes in, saves the day, blah blah blah. I have a big thing where I think end of the world stakes aren't stakes at all. You know that the heroes are going to win at the end. And everyone talks about Infinity War, like, oh, what about Infinity War, where he snapped his fingers at the end. Spoiler alert again. But what about Infinity War, where Thanos snapped his fingers and he won? And it's like, he didn't win. It was part 1 of a 2-parter. You know full well in part 2, the end of the world is not going to be the case anymore. Which is why movies like Logan were fantastic. Logan, the last one.
Yeah, that was
amazing. It was
amazing.
It was Unforgiven, but with superheroes.
Oh, I never even thought of that.
The thing about Logan, though, what I loved about it is that James Mangold didn't write it as a comic book film. He wrote it as a drama. He wrote it as a movie. As a Western. It didn't have to be Wolverine. It could have just been somebody with a gun. It could have just been...
So they applied the skin of Wolverine over the character. And
exactly.
Okay.
And the beautiful thing about that is, that I loved about it, is that Wolverine could have lost. The kids could have died. The world would have gone on. There's nothing about that was going to be world-changing. And that kind of gets you more into the story, I think, because it lends itself to some level of believability. It lends itself to some level of, when they're running in the forest at the end and all that, you really don't know if they're going to make it.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if they get killed, nothing changes with the rest of the world. There's no end of the world. There's no slavery or anything like that.
Just everyone who knew him wondered where he went.
That's it.
That's it.
And all these kids, and all these kids that people didn't know existed in the first place are dead.
Yeah, exactly. Oh wow.
World goes on.
I really like the live action more than animation, I think. But there has been some animations actually that I did enjoy, like Spawns back in the day.
The live action Spawn.
I love the live action Spawn, but also
So
I
you're
didn't
one
mind
of you're one of the
animation.
dozens who likes that movie.
Oh, I know not many people like it.
There are dozens of us, Mike.
I know.
Ugh.
I know. I was surprised at how many people don't like it. I was like, what? It was great. But I was into Spawn at the time, and I liked the animation.
Oh, the HBO series was incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fantastic. Except for the really weird thing Todd McFarlane did at the beginning of every episode. He was trying to be like Jonathan Frakes from Beyond Belief. Do you ever remember this? At the beginning of every Spawn episode, there'd be like this slow camera dolly inside this room where there'd be these wooden crates saying McFarlane, Spawn, and all that. And I'd go up to Todd McFarlane wearing this like black suit for some reason with his hair slicked back, just drawing pictures of Spawn, and he would try to say some pseudo-intellectual bullshit to the camera. and it'd always be something like, remember when you look into the dark, that his eyes are staring back at you. Nightmares are one thing that we all have in common and that we all fear the same. Remember this as you sleep tonight. And they'd be like, HBO Spawn. Like,
Dramatic or what? Oh my god, that's hilarious.
I don't actually know if that was a quote. I just made that up. But
No, but that's exactly what I remember. That I remember
Yeah.
that was what the beginning was like. I was like, oh my god.
well, that's Todd McFarlane. Like, I love his artwork, but like, Todd McFarlane thinks of himself way more than anybody else thinks about Todd McFarlane.
And does all kinds of stuff. I think he's a dynamic person too.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
one of those people who just across the board, animation, live action movies, figures.
Oh my God, McFarlane Toys is, in my opinion, his magnum opus.
Yeah, that's his main thing. I
Yeah, like that's that. He was a creator of Venom, and he was a creator of Spawn, and I still think his toys are the best thing he's made. And I love both Venom and Spawn. Just saying.
but my whole point was that was the last real animation that I got into and watched the whole series. I had watched other ones since then, but I guess maybe it's because I got older. I don't know. My taste has changed. Who knows?
I don't really know if getting older has much to do with it. I'm watching
Yeah, I
like
know.
45-year-old, 50-year-old people at these conventions dressed as characters from Adventure Time. So
Yeah, that's true. That may not be age. Just
well, we're kind of in like this golden age right now of children's television, and it sounds a little weird to say, but we're in this era right now where I'm starting to find that a lot of things that would be categorized as children's television are being adopted into their interest by people in their middle ages or people my age. Like there's this one show that I've already said before that I watch. It's on Cartoon Network. It's called We Bare Bears, and with a name like that alone, you know it's for kids.
right.
But like I'm watching this show, and they did like a full John Wick parody for a whole episode. They did a full Get Out parody for one.
Really?
Yeah, and they did this one episode where it's just these three anthropomorphic bears. That is the whole concept of the show.
So kids wouldn't know anything about it. It's just adults watching and be like, "Oh, that's John Wick."
yeah, exactly. They did a whole episode where this bear was trying to get his Roomba back that he turned into like this
That is so funny.
super awesome robot, and it was stolen by programmers. And so when he goes down there, all of a sudden he's killing robot after robot after robot in like very vicious ways, like ways where like a robot comes out with a buzzsaw and he puts the buzzsaw back into the robot's head. And the only thing separating this from an R rating is the fact that these aren't people. It's the same thing that Samurai Jack did for the entire first 4 seasons to be on kids' TV. And then, of course, Samurai Jack came back after 11 years, and they actually gave him like a R-rated final season, which was incredible.
Wow.
Yeah, it was wicked. But that's the thing. Like, so we're in an era right now where people are making these shows, and the people who are making these shows right now are people who are growing up on like John Carpenter and shit.
Right. Yeah. And the thing is, technology has got to a point where anybody can make media now. It's unbelievable. Like so many times I just use my camera now because everything has high def recording in it.
Yeah.
And I can do my own little films and put them on YouTube, and everybody can do that now. It's like and it go worldwide.
Yeah, like I was in Vegas earlier this year shooting some footage for a documentary, right? Until recently I was directing a documentary. Things got put on hold. Long story. But anyways, I was sent out to Vegas with myself, my DP, and at the time my producer to work on this. And we were trying to get B-roll footage of just the Fremont Strip, stuff like that.
Right.
And for that stuff, you can't really carry around, a DSLR.
Right.
So my DP pulled out his phone, which was getting 4K footage that he was able to adjust the lens of and everything. It looked better than half the shit we were shooting on DSLR.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cell phone cameras are getting better.
Oh my God, they're getting insane.
Wow. Well, was there whole movies filmed with
Yes, Tangerine by Sean Baker.
That's right, Tangerine. That's right.
They shot it for I think about $100 grand, and most of that went to getting permits and stuff like that. They shot it on 4 iPhone 5s using the Filmic Pro app, which is this bit of a name drop or a bit of a product drop here, but yeah, the Filmic
Maybe we
Pro
get a
app.
Free one.
There you go. The Filmic Pro app. It's like this little $8 app that opens up your iPhone like crazy. It gives you full like exposure control. Like it turns your iPhone into like a full-on usable professional camera.
Wow.
And for some of the iPhones, it could even increase your resolution.
And that's an app?
It's an $8 app on the App Store.
Oh my God.
And the movie Tangerine was huge for that. Was huge for that app because for them to be able to say they got a Sundance award-winning film, let alone it won for best cinematography, if I'm not mistaken. They use that for their marketing like crazy.
Oh yeah, the cheapest camera made a great film that won awards.
Yeah. So
There you
Filmic
go.
Pro, they were just like, hey, we're the app that did Tangerine, and if you haven't seen Tangerine, it's a fantastic film.
Oh yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, it's fantastic. And there's another movie. I know Steve Soderbergh. He shot Unsane on his iPhone.
I don't know if I've seen that.
It's pretty good.
Okay.
It's pretty good. You got to be in the right mindset for it. It's more of a horror film by him. He shot it in his secret, and then since then he said, all I'm going to do now is he's shooting all of his movies on iPhones now.
Oh, okay.
And his next movie he just shot, High Flying Birds, he didn't just shoot it on an iPhone, but he edited it on an iPhone while he was on the subway back home.
God.
Yeah. That's where we are nowadays.
Well, here we are using these microphones and doing all this stuff for a podcast. But I just heard a podcast with Tom Green, and he said he's all of his podcasts on his cell phone.
Tom Green exists still?
Oh yeah, he does. He has a podcast, and it's a stand-up comedy now.
Oh, that's
and
fair.
tours on that. And he's been in a couple podcasts and talked to all these people who admire him, all these comedians. I listen to a lot of comedian podcasts.
Yeah, fair enough.
And he's been on there talking to them, and everyone kind of stole his stuff. Like when he started, there was no real internet. There was internet, but it was really sparse, and there was no video on internet.
Oh, I remember that. I remember those days. Even I remember those days.
Yeah, and all these comedians are huge fans, and there's so many people that ripped off his material. Like, it's insane. All these different shows, I won't mention who. And some of the comedians he talks to said, oh yeah, I sucked on a udder of a cow, just like he did, 10, 15 years earlier.
Yeah.
And he doesn't hold anything against it. But anyway, the whole point was the cell phone. That's how he does his podcast. That's hilarious.
I mean, you can do that now, though.
Yeah.
It's crazy to me. Like, I remember when I was in film school years ago. I went to film school in 2009, and when I was in film school is when the DSLR revolution happened, where the 7D came out, the 5D came out. I bought a T2i back then by selling off my old camera gear, and I bought a T2i for $1,000. You can get one now for like $300, but I bought it brand new. And back then, the idea that for $1,000 you can get a camera with interchangeable lenses that shoots 1080p was fucking mind-blowing.
Oh, yeah.
It was revolutionary. And we were basically under the mindset of, I've bought this $1,000 camera now, I'm now going to go be the next Spielberg.
Yeah.
The jury's still out on that one.
One of these days, yeah.
One of these days, yeah.
Change this to Schultz to Spielberg. Kevin Spielberg.
But, that's the thing. Like, even back then, just the idea that you no longer have to invest like $20K into an HD camera with a fixed lens on it to make your work. You can have something that has all the controls of an actual photo camera.
Yeah.
That was huge.
Oh yeah.
That was fucking huge. Because before that, we were shooting on mini DV tape, which you would never be able to sell into a theater or anything. I mean, 28 Days Later did, but that's Danny Boyle.
Yeah. But I love the fact that technology's gotten to a point where anybody can just do it, and that has been actually why I'm doing so many things now.
Yeah.
I think because before it would cost money. It would cost so much money.
Yeah.
And it's just gotten cheaper and cheaper as time's gone on. And
well, yeah, like in April, me and my team were shooting a 20-minute boxing drama. That's what we're gearing up for right now. It's going to be for festival purposes.
Okay.
Yeah. But that one though, for instance, like I'm kind of just budgeting it right now. I'm like. In my head, I was like, oh, we're going to need like 15K, we're going to need like 20K. And I'm like, actually, I'm going to shoot it for like 3K. Because we have all the gear already. We have the camera already. We have all the lighting already. We got our locations for free already. And I kind of had to think to myself, like, what am I really spending money on? Insurance for the boxing scenes.
Yeah, that's basically it. And maybe some permits you got to throw in there or something. Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. But, it's funny because I talk to a lot of people who they'll say things like, oh, well, what are you going to do about power? What about Jennies? And you need transport to drive those Jennies. I'm like, you know what? Fucking Robert Rodriguez in 1993 made a movie by himself for $7,000 in the era of film with El Mariachi. And yeah, we all know that there's certain inconsistencies with that story, but the part that's true about it is that at least during production and during initial editing phase, it was him and him alone. Right. And that was in the era of film.
Yes, when you actually had to cut with film,
Yeah.
which editing was a real nightmare. I can't even imagine. I watched some people edit, and they showed me how they did it. I was like, wow.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I talked to somebody like a very good friend of mine, James Weeks. He's a local artist himself. He's a musician, and recently he shot his first short film they directed. Right.
Okay.
I was over at his place, and he was showing it to me, and he showed me the trailer, and they showed me the short film. I was like, oh, nice. When did you shoot this? Oh, I shot it yesterday.
Really? That's awesome.
Yes. And that's the thing is like, it's somebody who is able, like nowadays you're able to, if you're watching all these movies and you're watching all these things around you and you're actually able to take these things in. Whereas back in the day, you were talking, in the era of New Hollywood in the 1970s, in the New Hollywood Renaissance, when, we had our people like, the Spielbergs, the George Lucases came out, Francis Ford Coppola, when they were all coming out and they were coming fresh out of the gate, you had people like Roger Corman who were giving people like Francis Ford Coppola and Joe Dante their first cracks with movies like Piranha and with Dementia 13. But nowadays, we don't need the Roger Cormans to do that because we already are.
Oh, yeah. No. Everyone puts something together now, and we go to, Netflix or Amazon Prime or anything like that, and they're like, they decide. They have people going, oh, I'll pick it up or I don't pick it up.
I got a friend of mine over in Pittsburgh, Steve Rosinski. He's a filmmaker, right?
Yeah.
This year, he actually made a bit of a splash with his new film that all of a sudden was getting rave reviews from like Bloody Disgusting, a lot of like horror sites. But he's been making movies for years, and a lot of his work's on Amazon Prime. It's ridiculous how easy he told me how easy it is to actually get it on Amazon Prime.
Really?
Yeah, apparently it's relatively easy to do. You just got to make sure that if you're putting it on Amazon Prime, that you just know that that's your only facet of distribution. So you just got to hope that people catch on to it.
Yeah, no, it's getting bigger. I mean, not as big as Amazon. I mean, as whatchamacallit, Netflix yet, but it's getting there. It's getting there.
Well, I don't know if it's even not as big. Like Amazon Prime just won one of their original shows, just won Best New Series at the Emmys last year.
Oh, that's right. The
Marvelous Miss Maisel.
I just finished that.
I love that show.
Loved it.
Lenny
Bruce?
That
was awesome.
I haven't started season 2 yet, but season 1 was fantastic.
Yeah, no, I watched both seasons back to back. I binge watched it over a week after and you know what's so funny? It was a podcast that turned me onto it.
Really?
I listened to it, and they're like, "Oh, this is amazing!" And I'm like, "Really?" So, because the title, I guess maybe that's why I overlooked it.
I overlooked it for the same reason.
And then they said, "Oh, Lenny Bruce, she knows Lenny Bruce," and I'm like, "Oh, because I'm into comedy or whatever." So I'm like, "Okay, I'll check it out," and loved it. And my wife loved it. We just as soon as we saw.
Oh yeah, Rachel Brosnahan is fantastic in that show.
Yeah,
she's just fantastic. But and
she won the Emmy.
I think she won the Emmy as well, but the show itself won best new series.
Oh, nice!
I think it actually made one best series for the Emmys. Actually, straight up best series. But yeah, I've had this discussion before where I've said like I'm coming into film at a time where it is the best and worst time to get into this, and for the same reason. That the democratization of distribution and the democratization of gear and equipment and everything has become so much that everybody can make something, and that makes this
right.
And I think it's beautiful. I think it's incredible that people don't have these barriers that are in front of them for them to express their artistic vision. They don't have to wait 15 years of working your way up in the industry before you have one crack at maybe potentially directing something that might maybe get made one day. No, you can fucking put your money aside, pull out your camera, and go to your mom's house for 3 days and go shoot a fucking movie. And you can do that now.
Oh yeah, or all the free technology and stuff that's out now. Yeah. There's a guy that's as good as Stephen King, and he wouldn't have been discovered, but he ended up being discovered because it was free, and then he could write a book, or he
exactly.
Could write. So. Anyway, go on.
No. That's perfect. Like, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, there's a movie coming out right now called Arctic, starring Mads Mikkelsen.
Okay.
It's an Arctic survival film. It comes out, I think, in March. But in any case, it just got critical acclaim from the festivals. And the director of this was a mystery guitar man from YouTube. So it's a guy who got his start doing guitar work on YouTube.
Wow.
Is now at a point where he's actually directing this critically acclaimed film starring Mads Mikkelsen.
Wow.
Yeah. And
Just move up real quick.
oh, exactly. But that's where we are now, though.
Yeah.
You know, that's just where we are. Like, you know, the same thing with the guys who did Nirvana, the band, the show. Matt Johnson, he directed, before that, he directed Operation Avalanche. Before that, he directed The Dirties, which was picked up by Kevin Smith, who ended up sending it out. The Dirties shot for about $10,000 all out of pocket, led to them being able to do Operation Avalanche, which led to them doing Nirvana, the band, the show, which is on Viceland.
Okay.
Hilarious show, by the way.
I'll check it out.
You should. It's Canadian. But what I love about it, though, is that, yeah, we have these generations of filmmakers, artists, musicians, people who had no avenue to show their work, no avenue to even make their work. And now for the change out of your pocket, you can end up making some. Look at the Duplass brothers, if you're familiar with them. Martin, Martin and J. Duplass. They are like the picture-perfect staple of what exactly I'm talking about, you know?
Yeah, not going through all of this with brand new technology and being able to do it and getting noticed and getting recognition.
Well, look at I don't know if you ever saw the movie Creep. It came out.
Yeah, I did see Creep. Yeah.
Yeah, that was, for lack of better words, a really creepy movie. Yeah, but in a very good way. And it was shot for $4,000 over a long weekend at a cabin.
Yeah.
And that was probably one of the most like unsettling movies I saw that year.
Oh, I know. It totally had that. They give you a feeling. Actually, you got a feeling for it. For me, it was like an artistic feeling. I felt because I worked in film for a long time, so I get taken out of film quite easily. And as soon as the acting's bad, or maybe really obvious continuity issues or something like that, I'm taken out of the story. And then I'm picking apart the background. I'm picking apart the location. Yeah.
Becomes like a landslide of
But
observations.
that movie kept me engaged.
Yeah,
which is what I look for in a movie, and it doesn't matter how much money's spent. If you got me engaged from the beginning to the end, Iron Man was one. There was a couple of movies where I'm so engaged right away, and I lose myself in the magic. I'm not looking at, oh, he had his watch on last scene, he doesn't this time, or whatever. I'm all of a sudden the scripty.
Oh well, you know, one movie that I just recently rewatched for the Christmas break, and that I saw in theaters, was if you ever saw it, there's a Christmas horror film called Krampus. Have you ever seen it?
Yes, I did see Krampus.
Krampus was fantastic. It was one of those movies where if it was released in the 80s, it would be hailed as a classic up there with Gremlins nowadays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I won't say it got overlooked, because I think it actually did. Like the director of it's doing Godzilla now, so clearly it did well enough to get him the right attention.
Right.
But I mean, like, for me, that was actually a movie like that. It was a film where, was there inconsistencies? Probably. Was there any issues? Probably. But they did such a good job, and in what I think is a really good method, and the same thing they did with Creep, is keep it small, keep it concise.
Right.
Keep the stakes small.
Yeah.
I really make a point of that, because for anyone who's seen Creep, I'm going to be spoiling so many movies here. For anyone who's seen Creep, like, you know, end of the movie, Mark Duplass's character, you know, kills the guy in the head with an axe.
Yeah.
So he loses. The main character loses in this movie. And but just like with what I said with Logan, the world went on. There was no world-ending stakes. There was no now there's no bigger investigation into this guy.
Right.
You know what I mean? That was the similar thing with Krampus. It was all had to do with one family. It had to do with, it took place mostly in a house or in, you know, Endy snowy field.
Yeah.
And like, it, you know, it wasn't going too far into well, it went a little bit into the lore, but it wasn't going too far into trying to explain why it's here or explain what it is. And I think a lot of the time, and I think that's actually a good point, is that a lot of the time you have filmmakers and artists get too bogged down with the details.
Yes.
And the problem is, when you start getting bogged down with the details, now you're inviting your audience to start looking into the other details.
Yes, and that was what I one of the interviews I did before. The person who was a filmmaker is talking about continuity issues. This is one I edited because I'm doing it. He says, well, if it's minor continuity, keep the good cut of the actor's performance, because that's what they're there for, the best performance. And if they're not wearing the watch, screw it. You know what I mean? Keep going, because that is what captures people. The magic of what the actor brings forth is what captures people, not the continuity.
Yeah.
Right? And that's one of the things where don't be being bogged down in the details of that. And, the continuity's got to be perfect, but this is a crappy scene by this actor. Well, that crappy scene can take people out of the film, and then that's it.
More than that fucking wristwatch will.
Definitely.
Yeah.
You might and then you say, "Oh, good for you! You noticed that they did the wristwatch. You know, you're scripty now. Good for you." Kind of thing.
Good job.
Yeah,
good job.
Yeah. But it's one of those things where you get too bogged down in the details. You will pick it apart. My book that I just did, same thing. Pick it apart, groom it, and get to a point where you're just, I forgot about this. And then once I released it, same thing. Oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have added that. Oh,
Fantastic book, by the way.
oh, thank you. I'm glad you liked it.
I've lent it off to a couple people who want to get into film. So
Oh, good. I'm glad.
they found it very very accessible.
Good, because it's written for the layman, and I'm not a film school person.
No,
it's just straight up.
It's layman's. It's colorful. I like it.
It's a guide. Yeah. If you have that, if you have that in your back pocket when someone says, grab the gack by the two-holder and bring it to circus and put it beside the honey wagon, you know exactly what it is.
Yeah.
You don't have to question anymore. But anyway, that's besides the point. But getting too bogged down in the details was where I was going with for me, how it's caused trouble and how it's in the end result. Even now, I'm still kicking myself in the ass.
Oh man, I can't watch most of the things I've made, even the stuff that's actually had any
really?
reception. Yeah, the best reception that I think I've had for a film so far was with Batgirl last year.
That's what I was going to ask you about that. Batgirl, how did you get? Was there rights or anything?
No, that's the beauty about fan films. As long as I make no money on it, then it's okay. Plus, I had to have that little title card at the beginning that says this is not affiliated with DC, Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the only thing that keeps you away from any legal issues. It becomes a legal problem once you make money on it.
So I can make a Superman or a Batman movie and not make any money on it?
As long as you release it for free, yes.
I release it for free. Wow.
You have to take the loss in the money though.
Well, that's good to know, because I didn't know that, because there's so many times where I change your character, and there's so many movies you watch where, but if they want to make money, so it's not now Amazing Man instead of Superman.
Exactly.
And it's a blue cape or whatever.
Exactly. And, there's elements where, like, parody law is a really good thing, actually, that helps in that sort of scenario. Like, you can do, if you're doing what's clearly a parody of something, you're allowed to make money on it. So, which is why there's, those god-awful movies that came out for like a 10-year span where it was like disaster movie, epic movie, superhero movie. All the Josh Friedman and Aaron Seltzer are two of the worst cancers on Hollywood. I don't know. I'm saying that after the Me Too movement, so maybe they're not that bad.
Yeah, no doubt. At least they're not rapists. Yeah,
that's true. It's like, I mean, on the one hand, you made disaster movie. On the other hand, you're not a rapist that we know of.
We'll let you slide.
But yeah, like with those movies though, like they were always openly saying Iron Man, the Incredible Hulk. They were saying Jacob and all that when they were parodying Twilight. But they could do that because it was parody law, and that's actually completely covered under copyright law. You don't need to pay for it. That's actually how Weird Al's worked for 30 years.
Oh, I never even thought of that. Okay.
Yeah. Although he has a bit more integrity. He actually asks every artist beforehand if it's okay. He doesn't actually have to, but he just does.
Just because, he's a good guy.
It's a respect thing, yeah.
Yeah, but that was one thing I wanted to ask you about, because I had no idea when someone uses something that's already established like that, right? And I don't know if there's any sort of Batgirl, is there?
Batgirl? Barbara Gordon. Batgirl, she's existed since the Adam West series.
I forgot all about that.
She was actually invented for the Adam West series because they were concerned about... she was invented for season 2 and later adapted back into the comics because they were concerned about people thinking that Batman and Robin were gay with each other. Let's remember this was the 1960s.
And now Batman's gay.
Yeah, exactly. But now,
and any race, and any sort of, and a woman, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, it wouldn't matter nowadays. Well, now they got Batwoman on Arrow too. Like they just introduced Batwoman on Arrow.
Yeah.
Who, for anybody listening, is a different character than Batgirl. I've been noticing so many people not getting this right. One is a open lesbian named Kate Kane, and the other one is Barbara Gordon, Commissioner Gordon's daughter. That's Batgirl.
Oh, I see.
And that was the one that we based ours on was Barbara Gordon.
I see. Okay.
Yeah. And that actually all came from a conversation where we were going off to shoot this little 2-minute horror piece for this Conjuring film contest. And when on the way there, one of my actors, her name was Destiny Milnes, she had said in passing that her dream role is Barbara Gordon.
Oh wow!
And I never really wanted to work on my acting directing abilities, so I was so that's why I was like, hey, how about we make a Batgirl fan film? Let's do it.
Nice.
And that one actually got the best reception of I think anything we've made. So
I loved it. I thought it was really cool. Yeah, no,
thank you very much.
I checked it out and the whole process because we're friends online or whatever.
Course, yeah.
So I see as it goes or whatever.
Yeah.
And it was really cool. And the whole time that question was in my head: how did he get away with this? Is he not going to get sued? This is weird, eh? But so you've directed quite a bit too, right? You've done
in this last year
and writing.
Yeah, I've been working on a couple things right now, but in the last year, like I really directed that one. I've done let's see what shorts I've done. We did that one. We did one for an actor named Darby Steves, which was actually another DC fan film.
Wow.
She had conceived this one. She produced it. All that. I just directed it.
Okay.
She utilized my team, my creative team, and it was for her work. That was called Sue. It was a 3-minute, or no, it was about 5 minutes. It was a 5-minute film that was an adaptation of a scene from Identity Crisis, which is a very famous DC comic book event.
Okay.
And we adapted a scene where Sue Dibney, who is the wife of Ralph Dibney, the elongated man, gets murdered.
Okay.
And we adapted this into a short film for her. And that one, yeah, we shot that one at the beginning of 2018. And it was a huge change of pace. Despite being a comic book thing still, it was more of like a romance film, which was very different from me.
Okay.
But it was actually kind of liberating because I've done so much like horror and sci-fi and all that. It was actually very liberating to do something so out of my element.
Yeah, because in your professional world and in indie world, you're doing all this superhero stuff. So,
Exactly.
To do a romance is a different. Yeah, that's
even
a
if
different
it takes,
thing.
even if it takes place in the superhero world, right?
Yeah, no, I know it's exactly it. It has to be the same sort of story. And
Yeah.
I don't know. It's a different way to direct for sure. It's
Yeah.
not just action. It's not just.
Yeah, and then after that, we did an alien abduction film. It was about 9 minutes long. I actually co-directed that one with the DP. It was actually that one. I will say it was more that James Clark, my director of photography, that was more his baby. It was called Subject 17. I came in to co-direct it with him. So pretty much he was working on all the camera movement, all that, and I was working with all the actors.
Okay.
Yeah, so both of us had 100% focus on what we were doing with it, which I think it came out pretty well, and I think it's probably my favorite like looking film. Like I think our shots,
Best production value.
yeah, if nothing else, it was one of the films where what the final product looked like was pretty close to what we had in our head. We were taking a lot of influence from like 80s Amblin Entertainment films, stuff like that. Fire in the Sky, Close Encounters, that sort of thing. So, and that's where we got a lot of our inspiration for a lot of the footage. And I think that's one of the few films that has really looked exactly, well, not exactly, but very close to how we wanted. And then after that, we did some work for DOA, Dead on Arrival, the punk band. And
Nice.
that's a whole other story altogether.
That's hilarious. My buddies all know them too.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, they're friends with No Means No, DOA, all this SNFU. They're all like local punk bands from Vancouver.
Joey actually just got elected to city council in Burnaby.
Really?
Yes, he did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
It really is. Yeah, no, it's pretty great. As a Burnaby resident myself, it's nice having somebody who actually grew up in Burnaby running it because
Down to earth, grassroots.
yeah, and the mayor that we had in Burnaby, Derek Corrigan, we had him he was there for way too long, and he was like super pro dem eviction. And for people like myself who live in a rental apartment building that's from the 80s,
Yeah.
but he's out now, so that's good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Nice.
fuck him.
Okay, well, I wanted to start actually. Let's just start with your history, so people know who you are.
Oh, okay.
So, where do you come from? Where were you born?
I grew up. Well, technically, I was born in New West, but I grew up in Mission, British Columbia.
Oh, Mission was
Mission.
your okay.
Yeah, I grew up there. I've lived there. Apparently, we used to live in Burnaby, but I was like not even one when we moved to Mission. So my Burnaby roots aren't exactly there. But yeah.
Have you always been into film?
Oh my God, always. When I was in elementary school, I actually used to take my mom's high-8 camera outside to the cul-de-sac. I lived on a cul-de-sac, right?
Yeah.
Beautiful thing about living on a cul-de-sac when you're a kid is that there's like you got like a little pool there where you just play with everybody else. The pool being the center of the street, so as long as you don't get hit by a car, you're fine. But yeah, so like it used to be a lot of the time on weekends I started pulling up my mom's high-8 camera, and I would make little like edited in-camera kind of movies on the weekends with friends kind of thing.
Right.
You know what I mean? Editing in camera.
Yeah,
where
yeah,
you
yeah.
just quickly like, okay, get your shot now. We got to go over here. You know. I made my first slasher film at like grade 4.
Wow.
I'm sure it looks like shit, but
yeah, but that is like it's just amazing how that's what you wanted to do from that age.
yeah. And,
How old are you in grade 4?
well, I'm born late in the year, so actually, like, I entered high school at the age of 12 because I'm born in October, and so, oh God, I would have been probably about 8 or 9.
8 or 9.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so yeah, I was making movies with my friends a lot of the time on weekends, and then when I got into high school, and as it does, when I go into high school, and the friends I was friends with in elementary school are no longer the friends I have in high school, right?
Yeah.
But my mom was always very growing up. She always thought I wanted to be an actor, which she figured that, I watch a lot of movies, all that. I probably want to get into acting. I do stand-up comedy. I do writing, all that. I'm not an actor.
Yeah.
I'm not an actor. But when I got into high school, we had a TV video class. And our school, what I found out is we were part of a bit of a project that was happening under John Chrétien's government, where a couple schools were going to be given this like huge funding to see if they can have high school students prosper in the budding film industries. So they put one in. They put a couple of them in BC, and they put a couple of them in Ontario, which are our two main hubs for film, right?
Wow.
So my school in Mission was one of them. We got whereas a lot of video classes had, Windows Movie Maker or iMovie with like a couple cameras, I was learning on Avid. And
wow.
I was learning on Avid and Pro Tools in high school. Which for anyone listening who doesn't know, that's some pretty high-end shit for a high school student.
It is. I didn't even know what that was until I was in my 20s.
Yeah, we had a full sound stage at our high school. We had, we're talking like major funding for this shit. So at a very early age, but my high school video teacher was a guy named Scott Goodman, and my understanding is that I think what he told me in grade 11 was apparently the way that the program was built was that if you did all 5 years of film in high school, you would actually be able to theoretically skip the first year of film at UBC. And that was what it was based on.
Okay.
Is that giving you a jump on it. And that was actually what the whole program was based on. Program never really worked out. Funding went through, but we got to keep all the gear. So, but like by the time I was in high school, that program was already shut down. But,
oh, wow.
But they kept all the gear. So we still had all the gear.
So you're allowed to use it for your little project.
It was bought. It was bought for. So it was bought and paid for. So, so when I got into high school, I started learning about everything else to do with video that I didn't know about growing up. And so
thank God we're in Canada.
Oh my God, right? And the beauty is, like, my teacher was a year 30 years or a 30-year member of IATSE. So it's like I could not have been in a better position. Most of my lunch times were spent in this video room, learning how to edit, learning how to use Pro Tools. I made, I think, like between grades 9 and 12, I think I made something like 32 short films.
Holy moly, that is.
And then like in grade 12,
VHS.
Okay, so it went from high 8. I did VHS, I did high 8, and mini DV. Those were the three. So it was all standard definition.
Right.
We did this thing every year. It was called Zoom Fest. It was a 48-hour film festival for high school students. I did this grades 9 through 12. And so, 48-hour film fest, the whole idea of those is that you got a theme and a prop, and you got 48 hours to write, shoot, and deliver your product.
It's like Crazy Eights, kind of.
Kind of like Crazy Eights, yes and no. Crazy Eights has a lot more steps to it.
Okay.
Yeah, in this case, this is actually more familiar with the Run and Gun Festival, if anyone's familiar with that, or the 48-hour film project, which is big in Europe.
Okay.
Yeah, but this is called Zoom Fest, is for high school students. And we did this every year. Every year we did it, and every year I was always working with separate people in a team. And 9, 10, 11, it just wasn't very good. But then in grade 12, all of a sudden, I made this film. It was like this little 3-minute film about, we decided to cut trying to make a big story, everything like that. And our film in grade 12 ended up just being one where I shot it in like a black and white B-movie kind of mad scientist style, and all it was a scientist trying to make himself a drink. And that's all it was. It got nominated for 4 awards, won 3, and got me a partial scholarship to film school.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. I was just
partial scholarship.
Got me a partial
to what school?
It was like a scholarship to apply to whatever school you
pick. Okay.
Yeah. I ended up going to the Art Institute of Vancouver, which has since been sued out of Canada.
Really?
Yeah. I went to the Art Institute of Vancouver, which since has been sued out of Canada, but at the time that I went, my academics weren't very strong in school, so I wouldn't have been able to get into a lot of programs. Okay. And the Art Institute was something I could get into.
Okay.
And because, like, to put this simply enough, like, I had a 50% for it was some of my highest grades for academics.
So yeah, you need to. It's just like a sports figure. You have to keep up your grades if you're going to if you're going to go to the high end film schools as well.
Oh, dude, I got on the honor roll from just my arts. It was fucking weird.
That's great though.
Yeah. Well, I was getting like 50% and everything. I was getting like 100% in art, 100% in video.
I hated school. I wrote a book.
Yeah. There you go, right?
There you go, yeah.
But yeah, so we did that, and I did like BC Student Film Fest. By the time I got into grade 12, I actually racked up enough to get a few scholarships to combine together. to go to film school after that. But yeah, so I was doing that stuff all throughout high school, and then I was in a punk band for part of high school. I directed our music video for back then for that too.
What was it called?
Juvenile Assassins.
Juvenile Assassins.
I played bass and I did backup vocals, which pretty much meant that I was just screaming and growling. But
and you know how to play bass?
Oh yeah, I've been playing bass since I was 12.
Oh, nice.
Guitar since I was 15.
Nice.
Yeah, and ukulele since 2 years ago.
Just give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was kind of great actually. You know, I through my entire grade 11 year, and a little bit into grade 12, I was playing in a punk band, and you know, I was 15 years old, and pretty much 3 nights a week, because I apparently just had the coolest mother ever who was allowing this. I was playing at I was living in Mission, playing at the fucking Cobalt on like a Wednesday night.
Really?
Having to go, you know, getting home at 2 a.m. to wake up at 7 for fucking school.
That is awesome, though, for a kid. Oh my god,
it was great. I was in bars every weekend before I was out of high school.
Wow.
No, it was great, and you know, that around that time I made a really good network of musicians in Vancouver, a lot of which I still am very, very much in touch with today.
Okay.
And yeah, I directed our music video back then for it. I directed one of our music videos for our band, and I left after grade 12. Like, we had an album out. Like, this wasn't like it was a garage band, but like, you know, we had an album out. We were in Metal Edge magazine at one point.
Wow.
Yeah, there was you know, we actually had a decent bit of buzz at the time, and we actually had, like, I found myself like 3 years later, I was walking around down Granville Street, and I'm seeing people wearing our old T-shirts. So there was definitely a fan base there, and the band kept going.
Wow, that's good.
Yeah, and the band kept going for a few years after I left, and they're no longer functional. The drummer moved back to Tokyo, and the singer/guitarist is actually just a music promoter now. So
Did you guys open up for anybody big that you remember?
Okay, so this is where it gets weird. So we opened for Destruction and Creator.
Never heard of that. Oh, the creator of the band.
With a K.
Yeah, Creator?
Yeah.
Wow. I loved Creator back in the day.
Yeah,
oh, wow.
It was a dual headliner of them and Destruction. And
I know Destruction, too. Yeah.
We opened for them at the Red Room.
Nice. I've seen some shows at the Red Room.
It was bad.
Oh,
but, you know, it's... I think part of it is, though, is that I think we got booked on there on a technicality or something like that. Like, somebody double booked us, and just as a result, they put us as an opening act.
Right.
Yeah, they just put us as an opening act as a result of something else. But and it was kind of funny because it's just like, you know, you got Creator, one of the best, you know, thrash metal bands to come out of Europe.
Right.
You got Destruction, who are so technically proficient. You got us, who are just playing like 3 chords and screaming to a microphone. I read a review of the show actually a few years later. I was curious, and I looked it back up, and of course this all happened in 2008, which was a very basic era for trying to find anything online music wise. So in like 2012, I decided to look it up, and I found an old review, and the guy. I looked up Juvenile Assassins on Google, and I was just curious about this review, and it came up, and when it did, the guy mentions the band, and he mentions, oh yeah, the first band kind of sucked, and I felt bad when they tried to sell me a CD, so they offered me one for free, so I just took it. Haven't even played it yet. Oh my god. And the problem is, this is not indicative at all of the rest of our work. Like, we did, I think, in the entire time that I was in the band, I think we did something like 40 shows in 52 weeks. And, like, we actually did a lot of... Yeah, I didn't get a lot of schoolwork done.
Yeah, no wonder you got 50s.
Yeah, that would have happened anyway.
Punk rock, yeah, I don't know.
Come on, passing schools in punk.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but then come grade 12, I was just like, you know, I'm going to graduate next year. I have no interest in pursuing music.
Yeah, it was just like a thing to do.
It was something
fun.
I thought I wanted to do. And I had the experience. It was fun to do. Never wanted to do that again. And I still record every now and then just solo, but nothing that's like big or serious or anything like that.
Okay.
But no, and that's, you know, so grade 12 I was like, okay, I'm putting all my focus back into getting my film work done.
Right. That was your true love and passion.
That was my absolute true love and passion. And yeah, and so I started working on that, and then, you know, in high school even I was producing, like, there was a band from Mission called Faber Drive, which was, their first album had a few actual, like, pretty big hits in Canada and a couple decent hits in America. They were kind of at that whole, like, pop rock era of, like, the mid-2000s.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I worked with them a few times where they actually hired me to produce, like, live content for them. So at the age of, like, 14, 15, I was producing these, like, 3-4 camera setups at our theater in Mission where they were playing. So I was getting a lot of, like, early exposure of doing, like, live videography, stuff like that. And,
good for you.
Thank you.
Going into it with and still staying in that group of people, I guess, because you're filming shows and you're filming bands, so you went to the other side of it, kind of the promotion almost, like the media promotion.
Yeah, exactly. And but no, so it's great. So like the only problem with doing so much when you're in high school and having nobody else in your small town who's kind of trying to compete with you so much is I started film school 2 weeks after I graduated high school. And when I went to film school, I was the cockiest motherfucker you had ever seen in your life. Oh my god!
Constantly, congratulate yourself, just pat yourself.
Oh no, pretty much. Yeah, that's being generous, actually. It was it went from being a big fish in a small pond to being a goldfish in an ocean and not realizing it.
Right. And then when you get smacked down a couple times in that.
Yeah.
Wow. So what was it like? What was that school like then?
Art Institute. So I started in the summer program. So my class only consisted of less than 20 people.
Okay.
And with that less than 20 people, a few of them didn't pursue film as such. I think of the 20 people there, I think maybe about 4 of us are working in film. One of them was working for a while. A friend of mine was working it for a while and then moved over to England for a different life. One of them started working at Panavision. Or pretty much like right out of film school. Like she got an interview at Panavision. I think she works there to this day.
That's good money.
Yeah. She started as a prep tech, and my understanding is that she's like lead supervisor now for camera prep and all that. And then then we have one guy named Steven Shevchuk who graduated in our class, who is by a wide margin the most successful of our class.
Okay.
He right from the get-go got into editing professionally, and we're talking like a couple weeks out of film school. He was already getting like editing gigs, and rightfully so. The guy was gifted at what he did. He came in
like not for indie, like for actual shows.
He started off with commercials.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's his bread and butter. He likes commercials and short form because it's. I think he's told me once it was like he likes the less time commitment, but like so you can kind of like just polish off because he can get a commercial done in a couple days. And then you can move on to the next thing. Keeps you active, keeps you busy. He's doing very well for himself nowadays. I'm very happy to see because it's just you get out of class and everyone has these great ideas about what they're going to do and all that. Oh. It's nice to see that some people are keeping the magic alive.
I've met a lot of people right out of film school who think they're going to be the next Scorsese or the next whatever, like coming right out, and it's the same thing.
Yeah,
the goldfish in the ocean, they don't even know it. It's like, no, you're going to PA and sit on the corner for the next 5 years.
Oh man, I came out of film school, and like when I came out of film school, I was far less cocky than when I came in. I got that knocked right out of me, but I still came out of film school saying to myself, "Oh, you'll never PA." You're gonna make your movie. That's what's gonna happen. You're gonna make your movie. It's gonna go to festivals.
One pitch, and they're gonna take it, and they're gonna give you $50 million.
Well, see, now I wasn't that unrealistic.
Oh, okay.
I directed a feature. I spent $500 and I directed a feature film, and it looks like something that a 19-year-old would direct with $500.
Okay.
It's not very good. But at the time, I was very happy about it. And
what was it called?
It's called Killing Keith.
Okay.
I will not tell people where to find it, but you can find it online.
And it's a feature. It's like 2 hours, hour and a half?
Oh, it barely qualifies as a feature. It's,
okay.
And being that I was 19, I thought it was more. It's kind of like what we're talking about with continuity versus story. I thought it was more important to hit the length of a feature than to be able to sell it, quote unquote, before getting. Before making a proper film. When in reality, it wasn't a feature. It was a fucking 45-minute film that I padded out to like 70.
So you just added footage that was just B-roll just
to
make it longer.
We were in the editing. We were editing it, and my old buddy Justin and I were editing it. And when we did, we realized we were like 8 minutes short of what we wanted to hit. I took a page from a little movie called Glengarry Glen Ross. Where they realized, one of the most famous scenes in that movie was never in the play. Have you ever seen Glengarry Glen Ross?
No.
Oh, it's a classic. It's fantastic.
Okay.
But there's a scene there where Alec Baldwin comes in, and you may have heard this before. He comes in and he goes, "Always be closing," and he talks about this whole story.
Yeah.
That whole 8-minute speech he does about like always be closing. The leads are weak, blah blah. None of that was in the play. They did that because they were 8 minutes short of the runtime they wanted.
Wow.
So they wrote that scene, and we thought that it'd be a good idea to do that. Except the funny thing about this, Mike, is that we didn't have the skill or ability to make that work well. So in our case, I was just like, hey, let's take a camera and just hold on one locked off shot for 8 fucking minutes of people making coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Don't look up this film.
Yeah, but you're a kid. I mean, whatever. You learn how you go.
I'm happy that I did it, though. Like, it's, you know, it was a bunch of, we were all just a bunch of fucking scrappy young people doing it. And it was fun to do. Like, it was fun to make. It was a little film set in a coffee shop. Because that never happened before in film school students.
No, but you learn as you go. The mistakes you make and whatever, you constantly pick up different things. And that's great.
Oh, thank you.
Not a lot of people are filming at 19, dude.
Yeah, I know. It's and that's actually what I've kept being told before, and I've just been told. You know, people have asked me before. Actually, of all people, actually Kevin Smith. Actually, I was talking with him. I've worked with him a few times on The Flash.
Okay.
And it's fun chatting with him because you start getting into conversations with him about where you're just all of a sudden just talking shop about like making movies on a micro budget.
Right.
And
because he's the king of the micro budget. He's the king of that.
He's the king.
Yeah.
Like, that's
he's the top.
He's the top. And, you know, I'm sitting there at craft service on Flash just chatting with Kevin. And I'm just like, yeah, I call him Kevin now. But I'm just chatting with him. And I'm just like, and just saying like, oh, yeah, well, you know, I made a movie a lot of years ago, and I just mentioned a couple of the things I did to help cut budgets. Like, oh, yeah, over in Clerks, we used to just smoke cigarettes inside of the convenience store to get our haze going.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and, you know, you get into these conversations. After about 20 minutes, you realize that you're having conversations about, you know, tools of micro-budget filmmaking from the fucking king of this stuff. The guy who, like, started this whole concept.
I know. He's definitely one of the top guys that I admire.
Yeah.
I look up to, like, oh my God, because of Clerks. Because of, not just Clerks, other stuff he's done, but Clerks was the big one where he really got noticed.
Well, that was his first film.
Yes, that was his first real release film that went huge, and it was like an indie film that made it as a cult classic.
Yeah, right? Exactly. And you know, it's interesting because I think when talking to him too, I think he likes that I'm not fanboying. I think he likes being able to just talk about filmmaking. Like with other, you know, it's probably nice for him to not have people be like, oh my God, I love Clerks so much. Remember when you made Clerks? Remember when you made Mallrats? Oh my God, you're Silent Bob. Remember that time that you guys were in front of the corner store? Remember that? That was pretty great. Like next thing you know, you're like Chris Farley talking to Paul McCartney. You're like, remember when you were in the Beatles? Like, yeah,
I'm a big fan of his comic book show.
Oh, Comic Book Man?
Comic Book Man.
Oh, it's a great show.
I love
it's
that
over
show.
now, unfortunately. But,
what?
Yeah, they canceled it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's over now. But it was a great show, though.
It was a great show. That's really surprising. I guess two of the there was a podcast actually with those guys too, right?
He's got like so many podcasts going.
Yeah,
he's got Smodcast, Fat Man on Batman.
Wow,
Jane Silent Bob Get Old. He's got a lot.
Just constantly going, eh? Just energy deluxe.
Well, he's got like a podcast like channel now, I think is what it is. He's got like where he's got a bunch going on the site at once.
Really?
I don't necessarily know if he's actually on all of them, but yeah, he's a very talkative guy. Like he could talk. He could tell you a story about going to the store and getting milk and turn it to this 2-hour fucking story that is just gonna be like the funniest shit you've ever heard.
Yeah.
And like, you know, you'll find yourself at the very like, oh yeah, that's what it's like getting milk. Totally got it, Kevin. Oh damn it, that's right.
No, he's good, dude. I've watched his stand up or spoken word or whatever, and that kind of thing. It's really amazing.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think he's a very, as a filmmaker myself, actually, he's a very good kind of example to live by in your filmmaking job. He is one of the most grateful people, man. You've probably heard stories about Flash and Supergirl. He's just constantly bringing in W for people, constantly bringing in food for the crew. You know, very first day on Flash, last time I worked with him, he's giving everybody boxes of Cadbury Ladyfingers, like...
It's hilarious.
Oh, it's fantastic.
I love it.
Yeah.
That's inspiring to me. It's one of those things where I see someone like that, and you want to do the same thing. You want to be really generous and nice and caring to everyone that's helping you create a project.
Yeah, because every piece is part of it. Everyone's a piece in the machine. If you have a car running, but you take any parts of that car that are vital, it's not going to work. And that's the same way, right down to the last PA. Every piece is such a vital piece, and that's actually why I really hate the sort of disregard that PAs get.
Right. It's weird, especially when it's from people who were PAs.
Yeah.
That weirds me out the most. Like, I can understand if a painter, say, or someone came from the industry and then came into film, like came from the construction industry, came into film, is doing that, and they're just a gruff guy, and it's everybody that they're gruff to.
You don't have contacts, you're just an asshole.
Right. But when you see the ADs or people who are above you, you know they were PAs, and you don't even know for how long, and then they treat you like crap.
Yeah.
I don't think that's good. I don't think it's an initiation or whatever. I don't know what the reason is.
No, it's wrong, is what it is. It's like they're the longest, get paid the least, they do the worst work, they get no respect, they don't get to sit down for lunch, for fuck's sake.
Oh yeah.
I can't even remember the amount of times I've been out in the pissing rain trying to eat my lunch with like the rain just pouring down on it, right?
Oh yeah. No, I've done the exact same thing,
Yeah.
and it's also stamina. To be a PA, you have to have stamina. I stood for 24 hours once. I was proud of myself at the end of the day. I couldn't even believe I did it.
Oh, same here.
I've had times where, my feet are swollen. You race home to get 6 hours sleep to get up and go do it again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I've definitely been there before. And, it's not easy at all. Like, the job's not easy, and people think that it is. They think you're just standing around doing nothing. You're not. You are on the line for anything that's stolen. You're pretty much security without the payment of security.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you're supposed to just announce it or whatever. You're not supposed to tackle the guy or whatever, but you're supposed to make it known that there's a thief on set or whatever. I don't know. Or someone's on set that you're not supposed to be.
Yeah, well, like I remember, I won't name the show, but a while back though, there was a situation where there was a night shoot in every single in Crew Park. Like 20 cars got the tires slashed in Crew Park.
Really?
East Van is that Tapestry lot, no less.
Oh,
yeah, or was that Crab Park? An East Van lot, nonetheless.
Yeah.
And all the tires got slashed, and the first question was, why didn't fucking security do anything? And what's security there for? And the response back is, we're not gonna. They weren't gonna L&D any of the cars. They weren't going to pay for any of the tires slashed. Production wasn't going to. And the question was like, what the fuck? We were in your crew park with your security that didn't stop it. This is 100% not our fault. They said, oh, well, it's not security's job to watch the cars, it's just to watch the people. So why the fuck do you have security at crew park then?
Yeah.
And also at the same time, why is security not being blamed for this? I remember being a PA and just having some homeless guy on East Van steal a fucking orange and I got screamed at for it.
Right.
Like...
There's no rhyme, no reason. I know exactly. And I had one, because my last job in film, I was working for a place that delivered gear and whatnot. And there was one big film, I won't say the name, in North Van. And when I went there, they were filming in this huge warehouse. Well, on the other side was ships, and they were painting these ships. And when you paint a ship, the paint they use is like really...
you probably heard that.
The paint they use is really hardcore and thick, and it's for ships. You're going on the ocean, right? So when they sprayed it, the wind carried over the warehouse and landed on all the cars. Had to be 50 cars where their windshields were glued to the windshield. They got painted. The production had to repaint probably 50 plus cars. Because it was all the prep crew. Oh, my God. And this was a big production. It wasn't like a little...
But at least they paid for it.
At least they paid for it,
That's what I'm saying. These people are all on the hook for their own tires slashed.
Wow.
And that's not right. Because this wasn't like an MOW either. This was a tier 1, like, TV series.
So the reason also is because it was low budget and they didn't have cash for it.
No, I said this wasn't an MOW. This was a tier 1 TV series.
I thought you were saying...
No, this was a network TV series.
So they had the money to pay for it, and they just never did. That's weird.
Yeah, they said it wasn't their responsibility. They said the security, it's not their responsibility to watch over the cars. So then why the fuck do you have them there?
Wow.
Why even pay for security?
That's wild.
Yeah.
Well... Whoever makes those calls won't, I don't know. You're making karma. That's the only thing. Like, oh my God, I couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
I couldn't even imagine because you do all of the different stuff, and to do the show and put all the money together, and then once you're done, something like that comes up out of the blue.
Yeah.
But it should be insurance to cover it.
Yeah, like contingency or something, right?
You'd think.
It's something.
But anyway, so when you got out of film school, how long till you paid?
Okay, so I got out of film school during a recession. So I I was actually unemployed for about a year and a bit.
Okay.
Couldn't even get a job like at McDonald's. I ended up working at a little pub in Maple Ridge that's no longer there anymore.
Okay.
I worked there for...
Doing what?
Oh, just in the kitchen.
Okay.
Just working in the kitchen. I was there for about 3-4 months, and then after that, I was just kind of... I got very, like... I was getting very, what's the word here? Restless to get out of it. So
Right.
I was like, okay, I got to move to the city. Mission is too isolated to be able to do anything from. And so yeah, I ended up moving. I ended up doing a thing where I didn't have a car at the time, just for, young and stupid with your license leads you to not have a car for a bit. And so we had a train in Mission called the West Coast Express. It left at 5 in the morning, 6 in the morning, 7 in the morning, and that's it. And it went to Vancouver. And when it comes back from Vancouver, it comes back from Vancouver at 3 p.m., 5 p.m., 7 p.m.
Okay.
And that's it. And so I was applying out to Vancouver for jobs all the time, right? So I went out there. I was staying at a friend's place for a bit on his couch while I was trying to get jobs, and he actually got me. Blake Vanderhayden.
Okay.
Yeah, I was staying on his couch before him and I were roommates. He got me hooked up with a job over at a restaurant that I worked at for a very small amount of time. But then later on, I applied at Cineplex on Broward Street, and that's actually where I got a job. So I started working at Cineplex a couple years out of film school.
So you were in movies and you were in film, but it was.
I hated people saying that. Oh yeah, you're still in movies. It's fine. It's like,
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Although truth be told, it was a calculated application because this Cineplex had the Sutton Place across from it.
Oh.
Which is where TV shows and movies always put people up.
That's right.
So at the time that I worked at Cineplex, we'd had Ron Howard came in to watch a movie. We always had celebrities and stuff coming to see movies.
Nice.
Yeah. And I always kind of hoped that eventually I'd be able to meet somebody who can get me on set. And actually, my very first day call on set was from somebody who I met in a lineup when I was working at Cineplex. My very first day call.
So it did work.
It did. I got one day call, and I was very happy for that. Didn't get called back to that show, so I was at Cineplex for a few more months before I was able to get on a different show, which that's where the train started rolling for me. The guy who got me my first day call, Taylor Milne.
Okay.
I met Taylor Milne, who you had on the show.
Yeah.
He was the guy in the lineup, and I saw his Batman belt buckle, and we just started talking, and he said, I'm a key PA in film, and so
there you go.
Yeah.
It's connections. Who you know.
Exactly. So he got me my first day call. It was on Falling Skies, I think season 2. It was a 4 p.m. crew call, so you already know how that thing's going to go. It was at Capilano Mountain, and so I went over there. Didn't have a car, so I took transit all the way to Capilano School, and then I walked uphill for an hour and a half. I really underestimated how much 8 kilometers was.
You're walking 8 kilometers. That's far.
Up a dirt hill in the summer, yeah. And and then I went up to Crew Park. I had no clue what I'm even supposed to do. I called Taylor actually. I'm like, hey, so I got to Crew Park. What do I do from here? I don't he's like, oh, you just told me I'll hop in a shuttle, go blah blah. So I did all that. 15-hour day. Got home at probably about 11 a.m. And I got home at about 11 a.m. So that was a long ass day, and I was just like, but I got back home. I've been watching Cars for 12, 13 hours. Then they brought me up to the actual mountain. I got to see some of the film set, all that. Come back to my basement suite that I was living at with Blake, and he's like, "Oh, how was your first day on set?" And I said, "Oh my God, I'm just like." Laying face first in my bed. I'm just like, I watched Cars for 12 hours, went down to, then I stopped Cars from going to the back of a shot on a mountain for 7 hours. And then I got home and it's 11 now. And he's like, yeah, what'd you think? I just put my arm in there. I was like, film industry, yeah. And then I passed out for 10 hours. And
so you didn't work the next day. You were
I didn't.
It was just one day. Okay.
Fortunately, I didn't work the next day. But I never got called back to Falling Skies. And
that was the show. Okay.
that was my beginning, my end of my career on that show. I was at Cineplex for a couple months, and then and then I got a call from a friend of my mom's actually. Who she had out of pure chance, completely unrelated to the industry. She actually befriended a second AD.
Okay.
Who's a first AD now. And the second AD got me basically, nepotism striked very nicely for me. And I got she said, "Oh, I'll give Kevin his first day on this other show I'm working on. It's called Cult."
Oh, I remember Cult.
Yeah.
I worked on that. I PA'd on that.
Did you?
Yep.
I never saw you there. Huh.
I did background twice on it, and I did 1 day of PA.
That was a weird show.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
I remember it was like a fill-in show because I was trying to get a show call on Supernatural, I think, at the time.
Right.
And I would go over and do days.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Cult was a really weird show. Like, it was, even looking back on it, it was a very strange show. And especially when it's like your first real full exposure to a TV series, having it be, because for anybody who doesn't know, Cult was a show that lasted 1 season. We shot 13 episodes, and they aired 4 and then canceled it. But in the 13 episodes that we shot, the show was about a show within a show called Cult on the show Cult.
Yeah.
It was so fucking confusing, especially when it's your very first time on a set. Where I'm a PA watching a water truck for 15 hours, and I'm standing there, and every 5 minutes there was a scene going on where every 5 minutes I kept seeing an entire film crew rush towards an injury, and for the first 3 times I'm like, am I supposed to do something? Did someone just get injured?
But it was all acting. It was a scene.
Yeah, it was all acting. And, I thought I saw a director, and I saw a guy with a beret and puffy pants. They gave him the very Fritz Lang director look, right? and I've never been on a film set before. How do I know that's not what a director looks like?
No, I know. If you're brand new, you don't know.
So I'm just watching this whole crowd. I'm like, should I be doing something? Our PA is supposed to be doing something here? Should I lock something up? I heard that term earlier today. Should I?
Yeah.
And I finished the season on Cult, and that was really good from the end. No, it was great because Cineplex, I called them and I was like, hey, I got a day call tomorrow on the show called Cult. I'm wondering if I can get tomorrow off. And they said, well, no, we can't. We're in a very busy season. I was like, okay, well, I quit as of now. And I quit as of now, and I hung up the phone. I'm like, oh, I really hope I get a second day.
Well, that's just it. I've had a couple of people tell me that they quit their regular daytime job because they got a day call, not knowing what a day call was. And then it's like, oh, I thought I was on the show full time. No, just today.
Yeah.
What?
Well, I mean,
I quit my job.
Well, I mean, that was a situation with, I'll say his name because he's successful now anyway, with Blake Vanderhoof. When I first got him, his first days on set, he was a little bit concerned about, quitting his job for it, which naturally I understand. But eventually I told him, he's like, okay, well, I can PA on these days. I was like, oh, no. You got to be able to tell them you're good for the week. And he's like, I just told him, I was like, listen, they like you on the show. This is on Arrow. I told him,
oh, okay.
I was like, they like you on here, man. So if, you actually met him on his first day on set.
This was the second season?
Or season 3.
That's where I met you, was season 3?
Yeah.
Because I met
you.
It was season 2.
I briefly met you on season 2, but you met Blake on season 3 when I got him into the show.
Right.
Yeah. And so it was the same with that. And I told him, I was like, no, you got to be good for the week. So he ended up quitting his job, and he texted me. He's like, so I just quit my job, and I gave my full availability to Arrow. And then sure enough, he became a regular on the show.
Yeah, no, he got a show call.
Yeah, and he's doing very well. He's in Lex nowadays full time. He's
in Lex now. Oh,
yeah.
nice.
Yeah, he's
good
full member of IATSE now. He's having a great time.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah. No, it's really nice. It's really nice to know that little pod of PAs that we had at that time are all onto greener pastures now, which is really good. Is that the right term? I feel like that's a death term.
The greener pastures. Well, there's some people though that are still PAs. I met as a PA and are still PAs, and they live locations. That's their thing, and they like it. It seems.
Some of them like it. Some of them like the consistent kind of work. Every show needs PAs. And some of them like that they don't have to worry about the big picture at all. They don't have to worry about, some of the bigger things. I could not stay like that, but a lot of people can.
Well, for me, when I was doing my independent whatever, I never joined the union. I never went full-time and joined the union, even though I got show calls, and I just kept putting it off, and not bothering. But I liked the fact that I didn't have to join the union. That was another thing about PA.
It's the one job.
It's the one job they'll take almost anybody.
Yeah.
If you could stand there and make sure no one steals these cars, just call me if they're stealing the cars.
Well, I saw a post on BC PAX not too long ago. BC PAX, for anyone who doesn't know, is a group where people can go for PA jobs on Facebook. Right. It's got 8,000 members. But I saw a post in there recently where an ALM actually pointed out that they had a couple homeless people who were coming up to the sets all the time asking for recyclables, all that. And they actually just said, hey, you're here all the time. Do you want us to hire you as a PA? So these 2 homeless guys, they're like, well, what's the job entails? Listen, we got to be able to trust you here and all that. But yeah, you throw on the safety vest. You just watch, make sure no one steals from here or here.
And we'll pay you.
We'll pay you $225 a day, which when you're living on the street.
I bet you those people aren't living on the street anymore.
I bet you they aren't.
Because that was the most money I ever made. That was the other thing. You don't need to join the union. You make the most money I've ever made. It was unreal. I was making over $4,000 a month.
It was unbelievable.
To watch cars.
And that's just it, to watch cars. And a lot of people though get into the PA world and they start, they get very complacent, I think. And you find you find a lot of people who come in wanting to be a director, wanting to be a producer, wanting to be a cinematographer, and then they get so complacent that they start losing sight of why they came in.
Yes.
And although that kind of goes with most jobs, I do playback now, which is for lack of better words, much more pay. And and
but a lot more responsibility, and you're
lot more responsibility.
you're doing stuff. Well, you're in charge of running the DC Legends now? Or
No. It's that sounds like way more than what I do. I'm the on-set key playback. So
on-set key. Okay,
on-set key playback. Yes. I have my boss is my coordinator, and he's the one that kind of runs all the ins and outs, scheduling for my department, stuff like that. My job is I'm the point person on set, and then I have an assistant as well.
Okay, great.
So I'm face to face with directors.
But you were an assistant before this.
Yes, I was on Flash as the assistant.
So the person above you that you were assisting moved on to another job, and you just moved up?
So basically, no, on Flash, I was on Flash as the assistant for 2 seasons in a row, and then on Legends, their playback operator got upgraded. He was offered an upgrade to coordinator, and he called me. He called me a week before Legends, like, "Hey, would you like to be the new on-set key for Legends?"
Nice.
Which is kind of crazy, too, because it's the first time I've ever worked on something where I was already a fan of the show before I worked on it. So,
oh, yeah, it'd been out for 2 years or something? Or was it 4th season?
Oh, yeah. No, I got into the show a couple seasons ago because it's just a complete, like... yeah, I mean this in the best way possible and probably the least PC way I could say this. It is like an ADD of a show, and I fucking love it. It's like, season 2, they had an episode where they have to go back in time to when George Lucas was in film school to convince him to be a filmmaker. So they do so by saving him out of a trash compactor.
Wow.
And yeah, or later on in the season, they had to they pulled J.R.R. Tolkien out of World War I, where he was a soldier, and they accidentally inspire Lord of the Rings to him while he was helping them find the Spear of Destiny.
That's hilarious. So they're taking credit for everything.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's been an ongoing joke on the show, which I love. But so when I started working on the show, it was fantastic because it was fantastic being on there because I was already a fan of the show. I was already aware of all this stuff. Like, I got into Flash after I started working on it when I was reading the scripts, and I started getting into it. And I was already a fan of the character. I just honestly never started watching the show until I started. Now I watch it weekly. But Legends, though, I was right into that. And it was Firefly meets Doctor Who. So I'm just like, it's fucking awesome. And
yeah.
So now I'm just, although it becomes an issue now because I can never talk about the show with anybody because I'm 10 episodes ahead.
Oh, yeah, you're way ahead. You know what happens.
I know what happens. I can't talk to anybody because anytime I talk about anything to do with this season, and the only reason why I mentioned an episode from this season earlier is because I was literally watching the video from it yesterday on YouTube, so I know it's already aired.
No, you don't want to be sued by Warner. You want them to come after you. They got 50 wicked lawyers. What do you got?
I got Reddit giving me legal advice.
I went on Reddit. Yeah.
I've been on Reddit, so I'm kind of a genius, okay? But no, like, that's the thing is, I don't talk about the show with anybody because I can never seem to remember if
it's new or not.
I can't remember if it's aired,
right,
or if it's even been shot.
Yeah. So it's only good to talk about past seasons and not new stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. But yeah, no, that's So I've been doing that, but like, how'd this all start?
You got the job because he went up to coordinator.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then so he asked me to be the on-set key, and it's a fantastic job. It really, really is. I absolutely love everything about the job. The crew on the show is fantastic. The cast is fantastic. It is such a positive environment on that show. And I just want to also just say this because honestly, I just want to say that too and just let people know, like, when you're watching this show, you are supporting one of the most positive, well kept together crews and casts I think I've ever worked with.
Well, I'll give it a better chance then because all these kind of shows, I watch episodes here and there, but I never got into it.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where you have to get in from the beginning, you think? Or each
even
season?
the cast and the creators of the show say season 1 sucks.
Oh, really?
They tell you to. In fact, the cast has gone on. Like, some of the cast has said, like, if you're gonna watch the show, watch like a recap of season 1.
That is why I never really got into it because I watched a couple of episodes and I was like,
Season 2,
I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying for me,
really?
my own personal choice.
The cast has made Instagram posts talking about the first season. So, if you ever want a good time, look up Dominic Purcell's Instagram. But season 2 though, season 2 when they got renewed, apparently Phil Klemmer, the showrunner, my understanding is that he came into the writers' room and just said, like, this is a complete retooling of the show. They went comedic, they went campy, they got rid of they had all the story they had set up for season 2. They burned off in the first 20 minutes of the first episode.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah, and then they brought in the Legion of Doom for season 2. So they their own version of it. They brought in like Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, Captain Cold, Malcolm Merlin from Arrow, and Damien Dark.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot of fun.
No doubt. Wow.
Yeah. I didn't even work in it back then. I just like talking about the show.
No, but this is. You were full time up till now, and then you just got this for the second half of the season. They're going till April. Is that what their schedule?
No. Legends is a 16 episode season versus the 23 episode seasons.
It's not super long. Okay.
Oh, we're wrapped in like a month.
Really?
Yes, we're wrapped in a month, and it starts at the same time as all the other Arrowverse shows. It wraps a couple months earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know that about it. Yeah.
Yep.
But that's great.
Oh,
a shorter season. I mean,
yeah.
Supernatural. When we were the last 2 seasons, I was like dead on my feet. I couldn't even imagine.
Well, you remember being on Arrow, 10-month seasons.
Yeah,
of,
10-month seasons.
15-hour days at least.
Are they 23 as well?
They're 22 now.
22, okay.
They're 22 now. They were 23 the other years.
Yeah.
You know, I was talking to one of the guys actually on Flash, and like, oh yeah, we're 22 now, and I'm like, he's like, oh yeah, it's a lot to adjust to. I'm like, 16, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Like, you want to talk about that? I got to figure out what the fuck I'm doing for 6 months after this.
No, Supernatural, I remember when they went from 22 to 23. I remember when that happened on the was it 7-3?
And riots were had.
Yeah, one extra episode, and that was just for the cliffhanger at the end. I think they wanted to extend it, right? And that became the norm.
Yeah,
it seemed to be anyway. Now 16 is
it's 16 for Legends.
That's great. But I mean, Arrow and Flash.
Yeah, Arrow, Flash, and Supergirl are all still 22, 23.
Yeah,
yeah,
they're big ones. Oh yeah, Supergirl. What am I talking? Yeah, there's just never ending. You could probably have this list. It's just oh my god,
right? And now they're adding Batwoman into the whole thing, so it's like there's gonna be another spinoff of all this. Again, it goes back to the same guy at the very beginning of Arrow. They thought that wearing a mask was too complicated.
Well, what really impressed me was, and it really excited me was that, first of all, you don't need to join the union if you want to do background or if you want to do PA work.
Correct.
Those are the two things that you could just enter to see if you like it, which I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
And then once I started doing it, how many people would help you and the environments. I had some really positive, wicked environments, and people are like, oh yeah, you never need this, you ever need that. And then when I started doing my own indie films or whatever, people just helped me or gave me stuff or gave me time for free and stuff because they were there and they know.
Yeah. Oh, it's fantastic. And, from the time that I was a PA, the very first thing I did on set was I started networking all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Always be networking. Alec Baldwin, always be networking. But no, like that's what I was doing from day one. So by the time I was making my own films, like I was borrowing fucking Black Magics. I was able to get like nice special effects. Like, I was able to get Zerks for my own stuff. Like stuff that I could definitely not afford on a PA wage.
Oh yeah, no, my first indie filming, the DP had brought a was a $2,000 package from PS Lighting, and I had never. He brought a crew. He had a red camera, all the kind of stuff. So when I did indie, I thought everyone had that. I thought that was just the norm.
No,
right?
Most of us are working with home hardware lights and an iPhone.
I did LM on another indie with someone else, and they had like one bounce and I think a softbox light, and that's it. And like they filmed everything on 5Ds or something, like small or whatever. And I was like, oh, I was really fortunate and didn't even know it. That's so funny. Well, doing a film school though, you know all that stuff, right? And I never came from that background, so I had no idea. But.
Yeah, if I wasn't going to film school, I pretty much wasn't going to college. So it's good I did. And the thing is too is that like going back to being cocky as I was going in, I'm pretty sure that like I had to relearn a lot of what I should have paid attention to after I was out of film school, because for my first like 3 semesters, like, oh, I know this. I know this. Don't tell me that you need. Okay, listen, I know you're trying to show me about the rules and stuff, but like I got a scholarship in high school, so come on, you can take your 25 years of experience and shove it.
I won an award for a 3-minute movie in grade 12.
So go fuck yourself, okay? Stay in your lane, professor.
I know that's a lot of people's attitudes when they're younger. I think when they get into it, and then eventually. As time goes on and you work a lot of hours, I think all of that stuff goes away because
you get cut down.
Well, you get cut down and you work so much.
Yeah.
You work so much and you're so tired that those thoughts and attitudes and all this kind of stuff kind of go by the wayside. You work too much to sit there and pat yourself on the back of how great you are or whatever, Well,
that's just it. And and like with film school too, you have to learn. I had to find myself relearning a lot as it came out. Like I had to reteach myself and relearn about like the 90-degree rule or the 180-degree rule, and like Start learning about Axis and start learning about editing for suspense, stuff like that. Like these are all things I had to kind of like relearn myself. But then after a while, like the thing with film school is you go in and you kind of learn like a jack of all trades sort of situation, right? I knew I wasn't going to be a cinematographer. I knew I wasn't. I'm not a cinematographer at all.
Yeah.
I have a wonderful DP for that. James Clark's his name. And but for me, like I want to be a writer. I want to be a director. And naturally, where I am in my life, I have to know how to produce my own stuff. So naturally, you start learning how to produce almost as like a byproduct.
Right.
And it was actually on graduation from film school. One of our teachers did say to me, she's like, "Oh, you're making a lot of stuff right now. It's great." Like I directed a music video for DOA as my final project in film school.
That's awesome.
And they asked me, "How'd you do that?" And I was like, "Oh, I found his number on the internet. I called his house and I said I could do a music video for you." He was like, "Is that seriously all you did?" I was like, "Yeah." Like, well, what if you said no? Then I would try the next phone number I find on the internet.
Yeah.
It's not hard. Like, the worst, if you're scared of a no, get the fuck out of this industry.
That's what it is, and a lot of it comes down to actual time of doing it.
Yeah.
Because film school can only teach you so much, as far as I know, where when you actually go into the field, all of a sudden, like you said, you're learning so many things new, and it takes you another year or two to actually come around in actual practical hands-on things on film, and it's it's a wondrous thing.
It's unfortunate because I went for a while where I told people, like, I learned nothing in film school. I learned it all in the film sets. And I'm getting to the point now where I think to myself, no, you actually did learn things in school, Kevin. You just weren't listening.
Well, it's good for technical stuff. It's good for if you want to learn a camera, you want to learn how to actually work the sound equipment. School is great for that. But a school can't tell you how to write. A school can't tell you to be funny. You can't take a class to be a stand-up comedian. They could teach you stuff.
I mean, you can, but you're gonna find that pretty much all the routines. Like, have you ever noticed about this? It's like the old joke where the whole Jerry Seinfeld thing, where people always joke about, oh yeah, when Seinfeld says like, well, let's deal with airline food. He's never actually said that as a routine. The only time he's ever said that was when he did an interview on Johnny Carson of people making fun of his routine.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, but then all of a sudden that became this cliche that all Seinfeld stuff is like, oh, what's the deal with this, that? You know what I mean? Like, but like you're saying about stand-up comedy, like you do stand-up. Do you still do stand-up?
Yeah, I do it once in a while, but since I got sick and have the MS thing, the traveling and what it takes to be a stand-up comedian is a lot.
Yeah, like I've only gone back to doing open mic in the last year just to start testing material out again. And I find stand-up to be a fantastic writing practice.
We'll make plans some night. We'll go together.
Oh, there we go.
There's a couple places in town that I frequent. I don't know, but
I've been doing 12 Kings is the one that I like going to sometimes. You mentioned one once, I think at the 7 o'clock lounge or something?
No, it's Goldie's Pizza.
Oh, Goldie's.
And it's downtown Pender and Seymour.
I went there once years ago, but they only had like 5 people in the open mic crowd.
I've been a couple times and it's packed, and they redid the whole room.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah, so it's a lot better, and it gets packed now.
Yeah.
And there's a couple that I've shut down since. So I go up just because I go by myself. My wife doesn't come with me, and I don't drink. So going to the bar and hanging out, it's kind of a pain too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Being in bars every night. What kind of living is that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like, but like I was saying though, like, you are right. Like even things like stand up with writing, like they can teach you the tools. They can teach you the concepts of 3-act structure.
Right.
They can teach you about the second act turnaround. They can teach you about why Back to the Future is a perfect script, and I hold on to that statement. And it is, though. Back to the Future is a script where if you were to take that movie and you were to actually pause the movie at the exact middle point, that's where the second act turnaround is.
Wow.
Yeah. It is a perfect script and structure, and it's a great one to break apart and read from.
Okay, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
I never had before.
And plus, it gives you an opportunity to watch Back to the Future, and that's never a bad thing.
Well, it's been over 10 years, maybe almost 20 years since I've seen it.
That's heavy, Doc. But that's the thing. They can teach you the tools, but they can't teach you how to be a good writer. They can't teach you.
Right.
They can't. And then also that brings up the question, like, what's good? You know what I mean? Like,
right.
Back to Kevin Smith. Like a lot of people would think. There's a lot of people that say that a script like Clerks isn't a good script. I disagree, but I think it's a fantastic script. But there's a lot of people who say like, oh well, it's just people talking about their day-to-day lives and just saying fucking shit all the time. It's like, yeah, but that's
realism.
That's realism, and also it's like it's also, the term good is a very subjective thing in its own right, because what ends up happening is you have all these people saying like, oh, this sucks, but this is great. This movie's bad, this one's good. I hate horror because all horror is bad, but all drama is good. It's like, well, have you watched all horror? Have you seen all versions of horror? Do you know,
right.
Do you know that horror is not just people coming at you with a knife? Did you know?
It's not all Friday the 13th.
It's not all Friday the 13th. And, actually, it's funny, too, because people bring up Friday the 13th. I always say, that fucking franchise sucks. Like, I love it, but it sucks.
Or Halloween. That's another one, too.
The new Halloween was fantastic.
Yeah, I went and saw that in theater, actually.
I did, too. It was very nice to see a movie like that actually come out in October, by the way.
Right before Halloween, yeah.
Yeah. Like The Conjuring and Conjuring 2, I absolutely loved. Why were they summer releases, though? Those were like Halloween October movies that came out in July.
But you never know why. It could have maybe it was the Halloween before, but something came out and it would totally squash it. You never know. And plus, the production and the studios, they make up their mind to kind of that where we make the most money. That's the real reason.
But that's the thing, though. So I'm really hoping Halloween starts a trend of more, because that movie just blew away the box office, and it came out 2 weeks before Halloween. So I'm really hoping that this starts some sort of let's release horror
trend.
Yeah. Let's release horror movies in October again. That'd be wonderful. But I think the trend that's going to happen instead, as we're seeing with the Child's Play reboot right now, is I think they're getting the wrong lesson from this, and they're going to start saying, oh, let's just start revamping every franchise.
Yeah, no, I know.
Without taking into consideration that Danny McBride and David Gordon Green were such huge fans of the original. They were writing the script before they pitched it. And, the fact that they got John Carpenter to do the score for the fucking movie is insane.
It is insane. Hey, you never know. How many times you watch an indie film and you're like, they're in it? Get out of here. Not even just the actor. Yeah. Or you look at the credits and you're like,
yeah,
it's ours. It's also the passion and love for it. And once someone's made a lot of money, they don't care.
Yeah.
How many times you see an actor, like I said, in an indie thing, and they could have made very much money from it because it's not a big film. It's not like it's a huge
that's how Michael Madsen's made his whole career now.
Yeah.
He's still running off the success of Reservoir Dogs. So.
And that's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although he was all right in Hateful Eight.
Yeah, he was. I remember that.
Yeah, it just wasn't that good.
No, I didn't mind it. I mean, whatever. I only watched it once.
I saw it in theaters, and I was just like...
That's how you tell it's a good movie, is you watch it more than once.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, well, yes and no. Requiem for a Dream, fantastic movie. I'll never see it again. Same goes with, like, Schindler's List. Great movie. Don't need to ever watch it again. You know what I mean? Yeah, but, it's... Like, that's something I've always wanted to. Like, I write, I direct, and like I'm actually writing a bit of a slasher film right now. I'm trying to shoot in 2020.
Okay.
Like a feature slasher film.
Nice.
And being that I'm such a fan of the genre and I'm such a fan of horror, I've made sure to try to flip as many cliches as I can on this. So, yeah, we're gonna be shooting that in 2020. But like, even as I'm writing it, like my whole hope is that like the best we can hope for, especially as a Canadian filmmaker making like a $20,000 feature. The best I could hope for is maybe a release on Crave.
Right.
Unfortunately, Canadian film doesn't get the exposure.
Or if you might get lucky with Amazon.
Maybe.
Come on, Amazon.
But the thing is, like, not to knock Crave. I think Crave's doing a great job.
Oh, yeah.
Letterkenny's fucking hilarious.
I love it, yeah.
Oh, my God. I just finished season 6 yesterday.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. And they're the Trailer Park Boys guys, right?
No. Letterkenny is completely... It started off as an independent thing from Jared Keeso and Jacob Tierney and Nathan Dales. And it started off as a web series, and then they got picked up by Crave. They have nothing to do with Trailer Park Boys whatsoever.
Oh, I don't know where I heard that from then. Okay.
A lot of people have compared it to Trailer Park Boys.
Maybe that's why.
But I think I never was a fan of Trailer Park Boys, to be honest.
I liked the first couple seasons when they were running, gunning, and guerrilla filming and that kind of thing.
That was different, though. That was like that was something we hadn't seen yet.
And then it turned into this thing, and it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But Letterkenny, they're really good, too. And there's a lot of Canadian productions. That's the other thing that blows me away is we have the ability. We film for American productions all the time. And we have the equipment. We have the ability. We see it done every day. And then when we go to film our own thing, they're like, oh, that's Canadian.
Yeah.
Like, the lighting's garbage or whatever.
Well, what we got to do is we got to be like the ants in A Bug's Life and be the employees that seize the means of production and make it for ourselves.
Right. And then they say this is the Hollywood North, and that's what's going to happen because of all the fires and all the stuff that's happening in Hollywood. You never know what's going to happen. It's going to exist, right? Or are they going to move up to, I don't know.
Oh, my God. That's perfect.
Move a little north.
Oh, I love that you said that. I love that you're the one that said that.
Well, it's true. I mean, that it's becoming a scary place there. They have droughts. They have all kinds of stuff down in California. So, I don't know. And plus, our dollar is way cheaper. it's cheaper to film in Canada.
Well, it's funny. I remember working on the Lemony Snicket series of unfortunate events. I did playback on the first block in season 2, and I overheard Barry Sonnenfeld talking, where he said, I overheard him talking about this, where he was saying how Netflix only wanted to spend $70 million on the series for the season. He said we need $100 million, and that's actually why it shot in Vancouver. He said with the dollar difference, you get your 70, I get my 100.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. And if you've ever seen the series, it's got incredible production values.
Oh, it does.
Yeah.
I'm blown away by it, and I have friends that work on it now too. I didn't know you were on that. Yeah. It's cool.
The minimal amount of playback that was in it, I did do. I did the in the season 2 premiere. I did the Count Olaf tracker that you see. I was like, this is not Count Olaf, and like that. Yeah, I worked on that, and I was such a huge fan of those books growing up. Like, I never cared about Harry Potter or anything like that. I read every one of those Lemony Snicket books, all 13 of them growing up. So for me, this was just like childhood fucking come to life.
No doubt. This is like the best thing that ever happened. We got to start wrapping it up here, too. I could talk to you for hours.
I know, it's crazy.
But is there anything you want to promote? Is there anything that you're working on? That you said you're working on the feature? You want to promote?
Well,
that,
the feature we're shooting in 2020. We're developing right now. I'm not going to talk much about it, but I will say we're doing a short film, 20-minute female-driven boxing drama in April. And that will be a festival-driven one. It's called Featherweight.
Featherweight. Okay.
Yeah, it's much like the romance film I talked about earlier. It's very out of my element. But working with some great people for it, and working with this with a female boxer out of New Brunswick who's starring in it. Her name is Michaela Bohr. Fantastic person that she's been developing the script with me. I'm trying to. We're in the process right now of just kind of getting more like just a few other people involved behind the camera. But at the moment, though, it's that's the next big thing we got going on. But honestly, if anyone ever wants to check it out, creamofilms.com, CREAMO. Because I saw you misspelled it on your notepad.
Yeah, I did.
I've had the name now for like 12 years, and I regret almost taking it now just because no one knows how to spell it for some reason. But it's Cremo, like what you put in your coffee. And
no, that's great. That's so good. I know. I've checked out all the stuff you have online or whatever, and it's cool.
CremoFilms.com, and we have more content on our YouTube page, youtube.com/CremoFilms.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Well, it was good to see you, and good luck with your new job. I know it's only for a month or whatever, but hopefully next season you're right back at it, right?
You know how film is. No deals are done till all the deals have been done.
Yeah, that's the way it always goes. You never know. Everyone's like, "Oh, I got it, no problem." Next year they think they got it, and they don't get called back.
Yeah, the way I always see it is that you don't have the job until it's already aired and you already did it.
That's right. If your name's on the credits, they know you did it, and yeah, exactly. Well, thanks again for coming, and it's always good to talk to you. And in the future, I'll call you again if you.
I'd love to.
If you want to come back,
that's fantastic. I'd love to.
Okay.
All right.
Well, take care of yourself.
Take care.
All right. Bye
bye.
Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. Till next week, when I sit down and talk with Taylor Milne, who's another great filmmaker and has incredible insights, and it's a great conversation. So tune in next week, and you will hear my interview with him. And hope you guys have a great week, and I'll talk to you soon.